If you are married to a woman who is glued to her phone and always has her phone when you guys spend time together, go on date night, watch television or watch a movie, she's always on her phone and she's never there and present with you, it's really important for you to realize that your wife has disassociated from you and is no longer committed or interested in you or the marriage. Hello, I'm Karen Seitz, and this is the Happy Wife School. This podcast is for married women to realize that we are responsible for our happiness, that no one and no thing can make us happy, and that our husbands are not the source of our unhappiness. In each episode, I red pill married women to know that we are the problem in our marriages to good men. For the good men, this podcast will wake you up to the realities of your wife's woman ways, to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to her emasculation in a constructive, caring way. Before we dive into today's episode, a couple reminders. My message is meant for common and usual marital issues. My podcast is not intended for abusive, violent, or compulsive behaviors in a marriage that are threatening or dangerous. Also, please take a second to visit my website and learn more about my courses, which offer solutions for married women and good men. You can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get started. Let's get into our topic. Has your wife left you for her phone? So the reason I wanted to talk about this, I've gotten quite a few people reaching out with questions, and I've had a number of men reaching out talking about their wives are addicted to their phone, always on their phone. There's a separate issue with this of how as women we use our phones and social media, especially things like Instagram, for male attention or even to connect with other men. That's a whole separate issue. So someday I will do a live that specifically addresses that. But today I want to look at more just the normal always being on the phone, doom scrolling, texting with friends, texting with family, and just I saw one Reddit post where a man said his wife's phone is like stapled, glued, and taped to her hand. I've had to grow and learn through this experience and problem as well. For the women listening, you are not alone. And also for the women listening that are going to say things like, but my husband's always on his phone. He's the one that's always on his phone. I'm going to talk a little bit about why that might be in the case of being married to a good man. But I also found two interesting studies that I'll just share real briefly, where one study found that women spend 2 hours more each day on their phone than men. And that was from the Journal of Behavioral Addictions. And then another study, it was research from the largest study of smartphone use to date, and this was in December of last year, 2023, shows that across the board, women report more problematic smartphone use than men, and that came from the University of Toronto. So it is established that we as women have a bigger issue with being on our phones and being addicted to our phones. And in a little bit, I'll talk about why your husband might be on his phone a lot if he is a good man. We'll touch on that. But first, here's what I want the good men listening to realize. This is very, very, very important. If you are married to a woman, which is probably very likely, who is glued to her phone and always has her phone when you guys spend time together, go on date night, watch television or watch a movie, she's always on her phone and she's never there and present with you, it's really important for you to realize that your wife has disassociated from you and is no longer committed or interested in you or the marriage. It's another way for good men to decipher what your wife's woman ways are telling you about the status of your relationship and marriage. Your wife constantly being on her phone is a clear indicator of the reality and state of the marriage, that she has no sense of responsibility or accountability to the marriage and has checked out. I'll talk about this a little more and where we're going to go today, which is 5 reasons why your wife is addicted to her phone. But don't let her gaslight you into the myriad of excuses that she has of why she's always on her phone. It is a clear indicator of the state of the marriage and relationship, of how checked out that she is. So as women, we use our phones. It's kind of like we were talking about this as a team yesterday as I was planning and preparing for today's show, and Josie was in on that meeting. She said our phones are like the Berlin Wall that we put up between ourselves and our husbands to check out, disengage, and to further push our husbands away. Constantly being on our phones is yet another form of emasculation, making our husbands feel unimportant, neglected, weak, and small, and blaming them for the issues and challenges in the relationship, our own unhappiness in the relationship as to why we're checked out or always on our phones. And it lets our husbands know how little we care about them and how little we care to be connected, present, and engaged with them and our time with them. And that emasculates our husbands to feel bad and wrong, and that there's nothing they can do that's enough or right to make their wives happy and make their relationship a healthy, loving place for both people. It's really a giving up on our marriage, constantly being on our phones. So for the women, like I said a few minutes ago, who are thinking, but it's my husband. It's my husband that's always on his phone. Because as women and men, we can struggle with the addiction of a smartphone and being on our phones. But if your husband is always on his phone and he's a good man and he's on his phone while you guys are spending time together, it is a reflection and a consequence of your own behaviors and how you've treated your husband. And I've been there. So we will complain that our husbands ignore us, don't give us enough attention, are checked out and distant. And as I teach, and my message on the channel and how I support married women is to know your husband's checked out, disengaged, and disconnected from the relationship because of how you have treated him and pushing him away, and through the emasculation and making him feel bad and wrong, and that he's never enough. And we send those messages in so many different behaviors, the different woman ways that I talk about. So if your husband's on his phone and he's a good man, it's the consequence of having pushed him away to where he's checked out. Our behaviors as women have consequences when we are married to a good man, that we can only ignore them, have our walls up, push them away for so long before they check out and disengage from the relationship. And the good news in that, if the marriage isn't too far down the road and it's not too late, which for most marriages, when you're married to a good man, it's not. It might take a little bit of time for him to trust you and feel safe enough to re-engage. But as you drop your walls and just show up kindly for yourself and allow your husband to get the benefit, because if you try to do it for him, you'll be resentful and burdened and you won't be able to keep it up because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. But if your character and integrity is important to you as a woman, and you start showing up kind and dropping your walls with your husband, and he's a good man, over time, as he trusts you, he will re-engage. We have to go first, as I often say, that because we are the problem and we are the solution. And it's also fascinating to me of how we will complain as women that our husbands play too many video games, or goes and plays golf too much, or watches the news, or is always on YouTube, or always involved in politics and on the computer, or even watches porn. Yet we will be there doom scrolling on our phone, and on our phone for hours, on our phone while we're trying to watch a movie together. Yet we want them to give up those things and give us more attention. It's supposed to be okay, and we're entitled to be on our phones, and that shouldn't be an issue. That doesn't make any sense. So for the good men listening, you might tell your wife, hey, I'll stop playing video games, or I'll stop watching porn, or I'll stop playing golf, or being on the internet and involved with politics so much when you put your phone down, because it is such a double standard. So, where I would like to go with this today is 5 reasons why your wife is addicted to her phone. And as I said earlier, we're really looking at just constantly scrolling, being on social media, texting with her friends. The issue of male attention and getting validation and attention online is a separate issue. So that's not what I'm tackling today. But again, I will do a live on that soon. 5 reasons why your wife is addicted to her phone. Number 1, I alluded to this in the setup. Number 1, she is checked out and no longer feels any responsibility to the marriage or the relationship. So this is, again, a crystal clear sign of the state and reality of the marriage. She's not interested in you anymore. She's not interested in making the marriage work. She's not interested in being engaged and present with you. And the use of her phone shows you that and tells you that and makes it crystal clear about the reality of the relationship. She will have many excuses for why she's always on her phone. I actually did a quick glance through Reddit because there's a number of posts on Reddit about this very issue, and some of the excuses were really interesting. One of them being a man sharing his wife always being on the phone while they're trying to watch a movie or a TV show, and his wife's excuse was, I have to multitask because I can't just focus and pay attention to the movie. In order to pay attention to it and focus on it, I also have to be doing something else. So that's why I'm on my phone. It's not to ignore or disconnect from you. Come on. It's so silly. It's so silly. Or the excuse that, she's just doing some work and she's got to get some work done. That's a common excuse that I saw. Or, my girlfriend's really just having a tough time and I need to be there with her. And that's why we're texting back and forth. Don't buy into the excuses she has of why she's telling you she's always on the phone. She has checked out and she no longer feels any responsibility to you or the marriage and to make it work. So regardless of what your wife tells you of why she is always on her phone, you have to know it's that she's checked out and disconnected from you and the relationship, so that you do not get lost in the crazy making of the excuses that she has. The second reason that your wife is addicted to her phone, number 2, she wants a different life than the one she has. She wants a different life than the one she has. So we get overly engrossed in our phones because we want the fantasy of the lives of others. And in this, she's telling you that she's miserable in the marriage. She's miserable in the life that you and her have created together. And she'd rather be in an altered reality of social media and live vicariously in the perceived happiness and the lives of others. And what's sad about that is that the celebrities or friends that your wife follows online, and she might even tell you things like, oh, look at so-and-so. They just did this new update or renovation to their house. Or look at so-and-so. Her husband took her on this trip and vacation, and look how happy they are and what they get to do, which is another form of emasculating you, of saying you haven't provided a life to me. And look at all these things my friends or girlfriends get to experience, and you don't do that for me. And that's why I'm unhappy. Just a little side note. But we get lost in the fantasy of other people's lives. And the sad part in that is they're not happy either. The people who are constantly posting the positive, fabricated lives that they have are actually showing a deep emptiness in themselves, that they have to showcase their material items, their status, their trips, their house, and paint this false reality of how happy they are. And the people that are doing that because they have a deep emptiness within themselves, and they need other people to validate how happy and wonderful their lives are, because they're not happy and wonderful. We get sucked into the delusion of other people's own lives that aren't even real. If we're truly happy, we wouldn't be on social media and need to fill the emptiness with other people's admiration of the lives that we have. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. And I'm on X, but only for business, and on YouTube for business. I'm happy. I don't want to be on Facebook and Instagram. Some of you ask, like, can you be on Facebook and Instagram with your videos? Those platforms give me a headache. X can too, a bit, but not interested. Not interested. So when we're truly happy in ourselves, we don't need those outlets to fill the emptiness within ourselves. So that's number 2. She wants a different life than the one she has. Number 3 of why your wife is addicted to her phone. Her phone is a security device. Number 3, your wife's phone is a security device. We need the interaction of the phone to feel secure and safe and in control of our lives. Because with our phones, we can have constant contact to know what's going on with everyone at just the touch of our fingers, and have instant communication. So we know what's going on for everybody, where they are, what they're doing. And it gives us a sense of being in control and safe within our lives, because we feel so insecure and unsafe in ourselves, and so insecure and unsafe in the world. As women, we create these very, 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 very tight comfort zones to give us a false sense of protection. And our phone is just another, as I said, a security device to create this comfort zone and feel in control of our lives, because we feel so out of control. It's why for some of you whose wives text you all day long to know where you are and what you are doing, or they're constantly texting your children, especially as your children are getting older and needing a sense of independence and freedom in their lives. But your wife needs to know what's going on and where they are to give her a sense of security and safety in her life. It's the same reason she does it with you. What's really interesting to me, through the men's course I teach, I've worked with a number of doctors in high-level positions that have very demanding jobs. And they talk about their wives texting them all day long and then getting upset that they don't respond, which is so interesting to me. I do not text my husband during the workday because he's working and I'm working. And then that gives us things to share and talk about in the evening and on the weekends versus texting all day long. It's not healthy for the relationship, and it comes from a need to be in control and know what's happening at all times. And that's where that's coming from. So that's number 3 of why your wife is addicted to her phone. Number 4 of why your wife is addicted to her phone. She is addicted to her phone and has created a compulsive behavior that she can't stop. When we are in an addiction, it creates a compulsion, and we feel out of control and cannot manage our ability to stop and disengage from the unhealthy behavior. That she has truly formed an addiction to her phone. The drug in the addiction, the drug is an escape from the reality of her life. That's the drug. She's addicted to escaping the reality of her life, and her phone gives her the ability to do that. And the phone and the instant access to other people's lives, gossip, and drama creates an altered reality that she can live in that doesn't even actually exist. It is an addiction to escaping and disconnecting from ourselves and disconnecting from our life. As women, we have created such a complicated internal experience of ourselves. And in our unhappiness, in our not feeling good about ourselves, the last thing that we want to do is to slow down and be with ourselves or be with our husbands, our children, and the people we care about and love in our lives. Because when we slow down and we're present and engaged, we have to feel the mess we have created inside of ourselves. So the phone is a perfect addiction to escape, just like anything else we might be addicted to as humans. It's the perfect escape from not having to feel and face how much we don't like ourselves, how badly we feel about ourselves, how unhappy we are in ourselves and in our marriage and our lives. And our phones give us that perfect escape. So that's number 4, that she is actually addicted. It's a compulsive behavior using her phone, and she can't stop because it's an addiction. Number 5 of why your wife is addicted to her phone. Number 5, it is an escape. It is an escape from her responsibilities of being a mother. So this one is for those of you who have children and your wife is on the phone while the children are in her care. I see this all the time. There's a park by our office building, and I try to walk as much as I can after lunch. And I walk by the park, and the children are playing, and the moms are just there and always on their phone. I've seen this in comments or those men reaching out of their wives always on the phone when they're taking care of the children. And it's crushing and very devastating to a man of why isn't she engaged as a mother? And the purpose of being on the phone when the children are in her care is so she doesn't have to connect with the children and doesn't have to engage with them. Many of you know I myself, I am not a mother, but I work with mainly women who are mothers. And the common theme and issue of the women I work with who are mothers is that they feel trapped and burdened by the responsibility of being a mother. No one would believe, because when I work with women, because I look at these things in myself and know the issues and challenges I have as a woman, when I work with women and there's no judgment, there's only empathy and care and directness and helping hold them accountable so they feel safe to be honest and share their true experiences. So with the moms I work with, they feel safe to share their true experience as mothers and how miserable they are as moms. And it's very, very similar to the challenges that they have in being married is that they never, ever took responsibility for their choice to be a mom. Just like we never take responsibility for our choice to be a wife and our choice to get married and the responsibilities and roles that come with that. It's the same thing for women and being a mom and having children. They never thought it through. Never thought through what that would look like, what that would entail, the responsibilities that would come with that, and the roles that would come with that, the sacrifices that come with that. And we don't think it through. It's very much like we want in marriage, we want the wedding, we want the big party, we want the ring, and we want the dress. But we never stop to think beyond that. So once we have the wedding and the honeymoon, things for many of you share go quickly downhill because we don't want the responsibility of being a wife and being married and what that means. So with children, oftentimes women want the infant, they want the baby, but they never think about the baby actually growing up and becoming a child and the responsibilities and commitment and dedication that has to come with that. So then when it happens and they've got kids and they have to actually be engaged and have responsibilities with that, they check out. And that's why you see so many moms constantly on their phone. and not caring and being loving to their children, they're totally disconnected. And part of the issue in that and working with women is they feel totally overwhelmed and inadequate to be mothers. Nobody ever talks about in our society the struggles that women have to actually be good mothers. We think that women are natural mothers. In my experience of working with women who have children, we are not natural mothers. We are not natural at it. So then we feel deeply inadequate, overwhelmed, and lost in our ability to be mothers. And that is the overwhelming experience that I have in working with women. And then they beat themselves up because they don't know how to be a mom. And if you think that they shouldn't be feeling the way that they're feeling and they should just have it figured out, but they don't. And so part of the way that they can escape the reality of that and escape the turmoil they feel internally and being a mother is being checked out and disconnected on their phones. So those are the 5 reasons why your wife is addicted to her phone. I'm going to go through them again real quick. Number 1, she's checked out and no longer feels any responsibility to the marriage or the relationship. Number 2, she wants a different life than the one she has. Number 3, it's a security device to keep her feeling in control of her life and needs the interaction of the phone to feel secure. Number 4, she is actually addicted to her phone and has created a compulsive behavior that she cannot stop. And number 5, it's an escape from the responsibilities of being a mother. And I look forward to addressing the other issue with the phone, which is a bigger issue that will be a whole episode of how we seek validation and attention, especially from men online as married women. So next place I want to get into is the solution. And I like to talk to the women first. First thing women need to realize is constantly being on your phone, and like that one man said, having it stapled, glued, and taped to your hand is the equivalent and is an emotional affair. You are escaping into other people's lives to avoid and push away your husband and not have to give your energy, attention, and emotions to him in the marriage, and displacing that time, attention, and emotion into other people and other people's lives, being on your phone and being on social media. It is the same as having an emotional affair. And yes, I do know it is also a very common issue that, of course, it's through the phone and through social media that as women we have emotional affairs with other men. Again, much bigger issue, requires its own episode. So you have to realize it is an emotional affair because you're taking that energy and emotion and putting it into something else other than your husband and the commitment and vow that you made to him. The solution to stop and get out of this behavior and being addicted to your phone, get a life. Get a life. Re-engage with the life you have and the life you created and chosen with your husband. And also reconnect with actual interests and hobbies in real life, independent of the phone and technology, and create a life you want to be in. How I have done that, how I teach other women to do that, is by building a healthy relationship with yourself to feel good about yourself, which, as you guys know, I teach as the experience of being happy. That being happy isn't an emotion and feeling on top of the world and always having a smile on your face. Being happy is as having a deep acceptance of who you are, a deep acceptance of your life and the life that you have created, and wanting to be you and wanting the life you have. When we are happy in ourselves and have a healthy relationship with ourselves, it eradicates the deep sense of lack and want that we have when we are unhappy. when you're happy in yourself, you just want to be you and you just want the life you have. And that has been my experience and my journey of learning to be happy. I'm no longer wishing and thinking there's some other life out there that I would be happier in. There's no greener grass. That I just want to be me. I want my husband, I want my marriage, and I want the life that I have. And then, of course, there are things I work towards and the experiences I want to have and me and my husband want to have, but knowing those things don't make me happy, it's another way to build and create my life and to grow and learn through life, which is the journey of being happy. And in that, you no longer want to disconnect from yourself and disconnect from your husband and disconnect from your life, because in that you're connected to yourself. So again, you just want to be you and you just want the life you have. Now I want to talk a little bit to the men and the solution. As I always say, you have to know the reality of the relationship you have with your wife. You have to know the reality of the woman that you married. And I always say you didn't marry the wrong woman. You married a woman. And on a spectrum, we have these issues and challenges as women. So understanding what's really going on in her addiction to her phone shows you the reality of the relationship and the woman that you are married to, so that you can navigate the relationship in a constructive way and make choices and take responsibility for those choices and rebuild your own strength and confidence so that you can set constructive boundaries in the relationship. So I want to give you a simple solution and path, although feels very difficult when you've been emasculated and weakened in your relationship. And in that, you feel a lack of confidence. So this can feel, what I'm going to share, very intimidating and very scary, because you have to walk into the lion's den or the lioness den with your wife and face her scorn of how she will treat you and react to you doing this. So in the case of the phone and your wife always being on her phone, a constructive solution is setting up reasonable consequences for your wife always being on her phone. This must be done in a constructive way. It must be done in a responsible way, never in the moment. Always has to be done beforehand in a tough conversation of, it's not very fun for me. I'm going to give a few examples. It's not very fun for me when we go out for date night and we go out to eat and you're constantly on your phone. It makes me feel unimportant and neglected and disrespected. So I want you to know ahead of time that if you continue to be on your phone when we go out for date night, we go out to eat, go do something together, if you continue to constantly be on your phone when we are out together, I no longer want to do date night. So if that continues to happen, I'd rather save the money and not go out. Your wife will have a massive temper tantrum and she'll tell you all the things you're doing wrong. Well, you do this and you do that. And she will pull you in to make you feel like you're wrong. You never should have brought this up, and you're a horrible person and a horrible husband for saying and giving a consequence. You don't have to put it in that language. Just, I don't want to go out for a date night if you're always going to be on your phone. And then you have to follow through with the boundary. You have to follow through. So the next time you go out for date night and she's on her phone, you have to say, all right, not doing date night anymore. And follow through with it in spite of her temper tantrums. Really just like you would with one of your children. You ground them and they're so upset. I can remember the dramatic temper tantrums I would have when I would get grounded. Gosh, I was always getting grounded growing up. And my dad would follow through and I couldn't go out. I couldn't go do what I wanted to do. And he stuck to that boundary and kept me grounded. And that's I can't say that I learned this until a little later. I didn't learn it growing up. But that's what you hope for in setting the boundaries, that your wife will realize her behaviors don't go unnoticed and that you're not a doormat that she can just walk all over. So this gives you permission. You know, it's reasonable if you're going out for date night and your wife's always on her phone, it's reasonable to say, I'm not doing this anymore. Another example, You're watching a movie or watching a television show together and she's on her phone the whole time. Let her know, not in the moment, separate from the moment. Hey, last night when this happened, I don't enjoy watching movies with you. I don't enjoy watching TV when you're constantly on your phone. So next time that happens, I just want you to be aware. I'm going to go watch a show on my own and wherever you might have that, or I'm going to go out and shoot hoops, or I'm going to go play my video game, or whatever you enjoy doing as a hobby. And let her know, I'm not going to watch TV anymore with you. I'm not going to watch movies with you anymore if you're going to be on your phone. And she's going to have a huge, massive temper tantrum. And you want that because that's part of how you get strong enough to stay grounded in the face of her trying to pull you in and manipulate you with her temper tantrum. And say, I understand you're upset. I'm sorry. I'm doing this because I love you and I'm fighting for us in our marriage. And this isn't healthy. And I'm not going to engage in the behavior anymore. It's up to you. Now you have a choice. What you're doing in this is actually giving your wife a choice. Do you want to keep doing this? Or would you like to have fun with me and be engaged and be present with me and make our marriage work? It's up to you. You're putting the responsibility and holding her accountable. Or driving. I hear this a lot too. You're driving somewhere and your wife's just on the phone the whole time. Say, hey, I like this one. It made me laugh. And then, hey, if you're going to be on the phone the whole time when we're driving somewhere, I'm going to start having you drive and have her drive. The key part is you have to follow through. You have to do this in a loving, caring way, not to retaliate back, but to actually fight and rock the boat in your marriage to see, is your wife going to re-engage and stop the destructive behavior, in this case, of always being on her phone. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. If you haven't, go check me out on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can find the links in the description below to connect with me there. For those women listening who know you are the problem and want a path forward to take responsibility and change your own inner turmoil and unhappiness, I have a course for women called the Happiness Program, which is the solution to the unhealthy relationship you have with yourself and the issues and challenges you have in your life and your marriage. You can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. And for the good men listening who want a solution to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to your wife, I have a course for you too called the Marriage Rescue Course for Good Men Only that teaches you how to rebuild your strength and confidence as a good man so that you can navigate the relationship with your wife in a healthy, constructive way. Again, you can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.